Welcome into the Five Guys and the Five Reasons YouTube channel. Make sure you hit like, subscribe, and turn the notifications on. I'm Ethan Skolnick. You can follow me at Ethan J. Skolnick and at Five Reasons Sports. We got Alex Donno. You can follow him at Alex Donno. I want to tell you about some of the other content on the channel prior to getting to today's episode and our sponsors. First thing, make sure that you check out the 3 yards per carry, 5 on the floor crossover that we did last night. CK and Alfredo from 3 yards, and myself and Greg Slavander from 5 on the floor. I'll throw this at you. We did rapid fire at the end of this, Alex. So before we get to today's topic, I'll throw this one at you. Don Shula or Pat Riley, more important sports figure in South Florida sports?
Oh my gosh, that's I would say Shula, because the Dolphins were the only pro team in town at that point, and I feel like their success helped blaze the trail for other pro franchises. So it's like, yeah, I mean, you can't really go wrong with either answer. But I just think since Shula did it first, and Shula did something with the Dolphins that has never been done anyplace else, having an undefeated perfect season. So I give the edge to Shula.
Yeah, we made it more of a generational thing. CK went and said it sort of depends how old you are. Essentially,
yes, I agree.
Yeah, if you're a boomer, it's definitely Shula, and neither you or
I'm young enough for me it probably should be Riley, but I'm
right.
a student of South Florida sports history, so.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I'm not a boomer because I'm Gen X. It's not boomer. Okay, so let's just make that clear. One more for you, but we did like 10 of these on the show last night. Biggest sports star in South Florida right now is Jimmy Butler. Outside of the Panthers, I know people are going to say Barkov, and they just did win a cup and all that. Is it Tua or Jimmy?
I can't say Messi. Does he not count?
Does he play?
Well, he's supposedly going to be back soon. I'll go, but between those two, though.
Well, you can say the same thing about Jimmy, actually. Does he play?
Yeah, true. He plays about as much as Messi. I don't know. Maybe this might be recency bias because his season's about to start. He just got the new contract, but I'm kind of, and both of them are polarizing, but I think I'm going to go. A month ago, I probably would have said Jimmy. Now I'm going to say Tua.
That's kind of how we went here. We did the Wade Marino thing already, right?
Yeah,
we both. It's Dwayne. We both,
I agree.
One more, and this was a tough one for CK because he's a big Heat fan, which is actually interesting because Greg's a big Dolphin fan. And before we get to the rest of this, who has a brighter future with their respective team, Jaylen, Waddle, or Jaime Jaquez Jr.?
Ooh, Jaime Jaquez Jr. I don't know why I keep. I don't know. I'm a big. I just became such a big Jaquez fan last year. That's a really tough one because Waddle's going to be here longer, obviously, than Tyreek Hill, and so once Hill moves on, Waddle's the. You know what? I'm going to go Waddle actually because I don't necessarily think Jaime is ever going to be like a number one scoring option. Where Jaylen Waddle, I think, is going to be one of the top receivers in the NFL for the next 10 years. So I'll give the edge to Waddle.
And I promise we will get to today's topic, but I'll throw one more at you because actually a couple guys went a different CK went a different direction than I expected on this. Better owner at the moment, Steve Ross or Mickey Harrison?
Mickey, just out of the state, Ross tries very obviously. Mickey does as well, but Mickey has actually found success. Whereas Mr. Ross has made some good and some not so good decisions, where with Mickey, the good decisions far outweigh the bad ones.
I agree over the course of time, and that's what I said. CK, he said he's going to get flamed for his answer on this. He went with Ross because of some recent stuff, like them getting voted number one in terms of facilities, attractiveness to other players, and the willingness to spend. Now, the Heat will say they're willing to spend. They were 7th in the league in salary last year. They don't want to spend to the second apron, which I understand. And I give them a pass for that because to me, it's stupid to be in the second apron unless you have a championship team. But he said Steve. So I was interested. What was interesting was, look, Greg obviously picked all Heat stuff, but CK and Alfredo were kind of all over the map on this. And it's a fun episode. We talked about the fans and all that. And by the way, tonight we're going to do a Canes episode, myself with Vishnu and Jazz.
Awesome.
But we've got an episode to do today. Alex and I do, so we're going to get to that. Before we do, I want to mention one of our sponsors here, Let's start with Water Cleanup. Water Cleanup of South Florida. You can find them, or Water Cleanup of Florida. I'm sorry. You can find them in Boca Raton. They service South Florida. Your one-stop water and mold cleanup shop. Michael Robert and his team. Again, they're based in Boca. They can take you through the entire process from the leak detection. If you have a leak, reach out to them right away. To the damage assessment, the water mitigation, and dry out, the mold remediation, the rebuild. They'll do all of it for you, and they're honest contractors. Hard to find that these days, particularly in Florida. I hate to say that. Water Cleanup of Florida. Again, if you've got the schmutz, they got the guts. WCUFL.com. Again, that's WCUFL.com. All right, pivoting to a Dolphins topic here. And we've done a couple of these lately. And of course, season is, what are we now? 9-10 days away from starting. And want to look more on the bright side today. I feel like I got a little negative last episode. Who are the breakout candidates for this team? And I guess we have to make the rules, right? Like a breakout candidate, it has to be somebody who improves significantly, right? Not like marginal improvement. So I'll let you start. Who's your first breakout candidate for the? Who are we going to be talking about this season? We're like, wow, that guy popped. Like he's got a long-term future with this team, and now he's maybe one of their blue chip players.
Yeah, before I give you mine, I just want to make a note of clarification for those who see the episode cover. It's not necessarily meant to be taken as a spoiler. Like Devon Achane is on the cover, but I would say he already broke out last year. So my thing is kind of like who's going to be another Devon Achane this year. And listen, I could take the easy route and take the rookie that plays his position, who I think is going to be very good. But I'm going to go with another rookie. I loved watching this guy in preseason, Malik Washington, the rookie receiver. And also I love the story of being, a 6th-round pick, not guaranteed to make a roster. He makes the roster, picks up chunk plays in practice and preseason, is going to play a role on special teams. And man, I also I enjoyed his durability because in the third preseason game, he got absolutely blasted on one play when our former backup quarterback Mike White threw him a hospital ball and just like hung him out to dry, and he got crushed. I'm like, oh my gosh, is he okay? Like he's back in on the next offensive drive. So I was really impressed by that. And so, yeah, I mean, I could also say that I do expect Jaylen Wright at running back to get some burn and to break out. And obviously for any rookie, if you have a good season, you're a breakout because you haven't done it at this level. But I've been really captivated watching Malik Washington. And I think this is going to be one of those guys who obviously a deep receiving core. So he's going to have to pick his spots and maximize his snaps. Although, Ethan, with the current state of the Dolphins receiving core at this very moment, he might get some early season playing time. He might get some more burn early on.
Yeah, he might. I mean, it's really unclear who the third receiver is going to be consistently. I mean, because we haven't seen Odell. So until we see him, Robbie Chosen is back, by the way, and Dade tells us. We'll get to some of the comments. Wow. Well, he's local, right? It's an easy phone call. This one comes in from AKW Beats. Pick any Jaylen, all will break out this year. We should just do an episode on who's going to be the best Jaylen. They got 4, right? They got 4.
Yeah.
They got 2 spelled the same, and then obviously Ramsey and Phillips. I like that pick. I wonder how it shakes out and what the playing time actually is there, because I kind of feel like they're going to be featuring Smith so much in the offense. I don't know that a third receiver is going to be. They may run a lot of 12 formation. I'm not sure yet in terms of how they're going to handle it, because again, they didn't have the rest of the receivers healthy this preseason, which makes it difficult. Achane is, look, that's the obvious one, I think, for the national folks. Like he could have that guy could have 1,500 yards from scrimmage this year if they feature him, because I kind of feel like the Mostert thing, and I love Raheem. I love everything he's about. But again, he's a running back in his 30s, and I think they're going to de-emphasize him a little bit this year, and you'll see him, in those goal line situations. But I honestly don't think he's going to be the featured guy. I think that they're going to move away from him a little bit, and I do think you're going to see Wright a little bit more. Now, this one, again, may not feel like a breakout candidate because he's had a couple of decent seasons, but it's been a long time since the Dolphins have gotten real production from the tight end position. And so I'm going to say Jonnu Smith. And a good one. Because I just think they have a weapon now that they can use. And look, no offense to Durham Smythe, but like he wasn't brought in to be a receiving threat, and yet he was third on the team in targets last year. So that means Tua will feature the tight end. And this is a tight end who actually can make a play after the catch. Because with Smythe, it was like, all right, you're going to get the yardage that you're going to get. But they've had, look, you go back to the days of Randy McMichael, they've had some decent players at the tight end position. Obviously, you go back to Keith Jackson and, of course, the great Jim Mandich and others. But, we're going way back. The tight end position has not been necessarily a featured position of late. And I think that Smith is, I could see, I don't know, 45 catches and 5 touchdowns. I mean, to me, that would be a significant impact on this team, again, to take the pressure off of Hill and Waddle, especially because we know both of those guys get nicked up at times.
Yeah, and I wonder on the defensive side of the football, is there going to be any form, and I would definitely grade this one on the curve, but any form of Cam Smith breakout. I mean, a guy who didn't play last year, had some moments in training camp this year. I mean, when you're talking about a former second round pick, it's like these picks have to pan out. If a 6th round pick doesn't pan out, you cut your losses. Or if a 6th round pick does pan out, oh, this is great, this is a bonus. Look how well our general manager drafted. Look how he finds diamonds in the rough. But when 1st and 2nd round picks don't pan out, that's a problem. And so heading into year 2, I hope we can get a breakout from him this year. But I understand where AKW Beats is coming from. I mean, most of the Jaylens have already broken out. I guess Jaylen Wright would be the next one. But if you follow the trend of breakout Jaylens who are now Miami Dolphins, you can almost bank on Jaylen Wright being the next one.
Yeah, and I do think the opportunity is going to be there for him as the season progresses. I mean, you mentioned with Cam Smith, I just hope that it was a coordinator issue.
Yeah.
Right? Because otherwise, if you got another Noah Igbenegbu or whatever the name was, it's no need to remember it anymore. We're waiting year after year after year for him to sort of get it, and there was one game in there, you're like, oh wait, you can see the athletic ability, and I liked him. That was a Flores pick, wasn't it? I believe was it Flores who liked him more than Greer? I feel like that's what I remember.
Oh, yeah.
At the time,
that may be the story that Greer wants out there now. I don't know, but yeah, I think I did hear that.
Well, Greer survives everything, so there are lots of stories that may get out one way or the other. I'm looking at the roster, and as I look at it, and I kind of go up and down. There are a couple of recent draft picks that I mean, I don't know. Channing Tindall doesn't look like he's going to be what they thought he was going to be.
I want to touch on him for a second because I know, and again, you take a preseason game with a grain of salt, but he did really well in the 3rd preseason game. Take it for what it's worth. But Mike McDaniel talked glowingly about Tindall after that and really seemed to be pleased with how he's seeing the field and blossoming now. So that was definitely when I was before the show, when I was formulating my list, that was one that I considered. But it's I don't know how high he's going to be on the depth chart this year. I hope he can develop.
What are your thoughts on Ethan Bonner?
I like, and I know the Dolphins like him. Well, wasn't it? Was he the one? There was a story about they had an opportunity to trade him, and they basically hung up the phone. Yeah, yeah. So I think we could have something there for sure.
Well, and you see the release of Needham, right? So I mean, there's obviously some confidence in him, and he's another burner. Yeah. He just looks like a guy who's going to make plays for them. And I still come back to this on their defense. Okay, losing Wilkins obviously matters. They're trying to replace him with a whole bunch of defensive linemen. They got Ramsey healthy for a full season, they hope, and that should make a difference. X had declined. I think you see the lack of market for him. I don't think it's just the off-field stuff. So I think that kind of tells you where he's at. I like the Fuller pickup. But when I look at their defense, I'm kind of like, okay, who's going to make plays? Who's going to make game-turning plays? And the guys who I sort of looked at on that defense to do it were Phillips and Van Ginkel last year, primarily, right? And you've got one who's coming back from significant injury, and the Achilles injuries, that's the worst injury you could possibly get as a pass rushing defensive linebacker. And let's get to this from Alfredo, and then we'll go forward. Tyndall is, of course, Alfredo for 3 yards per carry. Tyndall, in my opinion, is playing out of position. Every time Weaver plays him inside, he flashes all over the place. Problem is they have too many fill linebackers already. They don't need a 4th.
That makes sense.
So again, we'll see it. We'll see if the opportunities pop up. But when I look at who's going to make plays, I kind of feel like half the big plays that were made over the past couple of years were Andrew Van Ginkel.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't all the time, but when there was like, right? And I just wonder who's going to replace him from a playmaking standpoint. I like David Long. I don't know that he's going to make a whole bunch of those kind of plays. So I'm curious, and Bonner looks to me like a guy that if he ends up getting playing time, I don't know. He seems to have a feel for where to be, and I can see some of those things happening. So that's one of the ones I mentioned. You got another one?
I think we covered most of the bases in my opinion on that. I would hope that my guy, I got to throw a shout out to Braxton Berrios. I know he's not the most popular among Dolphin fans. It's usually short yardage with him, but I'd like to see a couple of big plays, if nothing else, on returns, right, to give us a little bit more of a spark this year from Braxton. And he's usually good for a clutch first down or two.
Yeah, I'll say this about returns. He's reliable.
Yeah,
but I'm just one of those. I want to see a playmaker there, and that's not really his game. Indade says Berrios needs more time to get open. That offensive line hasn't allowed for that. Well, they better have like 4 breakout candidates on the offensive line, right? Is Robert Jones? Does he qualify as a breakout candidate? He showed some.
I mean, does any offensive lineman like really count as a breakout candidate? It's like, man, nice PFF score today, guys. You really broke out. Like, I don't know. It's just different.
I think Terran Armstead, unfortunately, is a breakdown candidate, which is the biggest problem with this line, is that their best player is someone I don't think is going to play 12 games, but that's why they drafted an offensive lineman in the second round. All right, we'll get to more of this on the other side of this. I want to get you ready, obviously, for the Dolphins against Jacksonville coming up in 10 days at this point, and I'll be there covering for 5 Reasons Sports. Do want to mention our friend Jose over at Jerseys 305. He's got some Dolphins jerseys on there. Make sure that you check him out on Instagram as well. He posts all the new stuff, but here's a little bit more about jerseys305.com.
Hey, it's Ethan Skolnick for the 5 Reasons Sports Network. We've got a great new sponsor that fits with us perfectly. It's called jerseys305.com. That's jerseys305.com. This is your home for dead stock and vintage jerseys from the Heat, Panthers, Dolphins, Marlins, and the other local teams. Their mission was born from a passion for wearing jerseys of the old styles and the past players. Jerseys 305 aims to make every fan stand out from the crowd with unique pieces that you don't commonly see anymore. Maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago, but not today. And Jerseys 305 was created by the fans, for the fans. They're diehards just like you. In fact, they're probably listening to this episode right now. So check them out, Jerseys 305, their partnership with 5 Reasons Sports, celebrating with a 10% discount on the next purchase using the code 5 at checkout. Unlock your exclusive savings on the entire vintage collection.
We'll go the other way. Be negative to close. Who's the guy you think falls off a cliff this year?
I mean, some would argue it's already happened, but I'm getting more and more buyer's remorse on the Odell Beckham thing. Yeah, I really, and I know McDaniel paints a picture of he really wanted to come off the PUP list. It was my decision not to let him, but just, when we hear in recent weeks that like he can't actually run routes like for his throwing sessions with Tua, and it doesn't really seem like what I was hoping for at the time when he was signed. So that's one for me. I think another one, like you already mentioned, Teron Armstead, and it's like I don't doubt his ability to perform when he plays. I just you have to wonder, the older he gets, the injury trouble that he's already had for the past few years is probably only going to get worse, not better. So I think there's going to be a number of games where he's not in action. And then I can see where you're coming from as well on Raheem Mostert. I mean, he's about 32 this season. That's just an estimate on my part. So it's, that's usually getting there up in the mileage for a running back. And man, hopefully there are no others, Ethan. Hopefully there's no other notable breakdowns, because I can also think of a very speedy star wide receiver in his 30s that I hope keeps playing at the level he's been playing at.
Yeah, they need that. I got one I'm slightly concerned about, just because anytime a team lets go, and I know their financial concerns come into this, obviously, but lets go of a player who was like a core leader for their defense, and you end up getting excited about the player, but then the player comes and he's just not the same guy. Because look, nobody knows Jordan Poyer better than the Bills do, and I just again the injury this preseason was a hand injury or whatever. It's not something that's going to affect him long term, but I wonder about it because again. The Bills had him in that room. He was a core leader for that team. I think it was good for the Dolphins to steal him from the Bills, but we've been through this before. Sometimes the player doesn't have quite as much in the tank as you think. For years,
Yeah.
the Steelers and Patriots in particular were really good about getting, like, I don't want to say getting rid of, but letting guys go or not re-signing guys a year early. And sometimes there would be a year of production, so you hope that you get that. But also the Dolphins have signed, now off the top of my head, I'm not thinking of all of them. Junior Seau, may rest in
Joey
peace.
Porter, Mike Wallace.
Well, Joey Porter had the 1 year for Miami,
Yeah,
right?
he
Like he was
did.
bad his first year, and he screamed at Cam Cameron on the plane and all that. And I think that might have been justified based on the coaching that was going on at the time.
Yeah.
But I just feel like I go all the way back because I go all the way back. But the Dolphins, I remember under Jimmy, they signed all these receivers who'd been productive in other places, like Brett Perriman, Fred Barnett. And like none of them could like separate at all anymore. And like there was a reason, again, that guys who had been 1,000-yard receivers were out there on the open market. And then for that, sometimes you get an Irving Fryer who ended up performing really well in Miami. So we'll see what happens. And then May, by the way, I think is a breakout candidate. Not the breakout; he's known around the league, but I think that was a sneaky good signing by them. He's a guy who's going to play a lot. All right, Alex, appreciate it. Check out our sponsors, Jerseys 305.com. More coverage of the Dolphins coming up. Probably next week, we're going to do a 5 Reasons stream with a lot of our contributors getting you ready for the big game. Also, check out the Inside Leverage Show. It's here on every Wednesday, and you can check it out. And additionally, Pulse of Fins Nation every Tuesday. Lewis, I'm contractually obligated to say that. Have a good one, everyone.
See ya.